may be seated. This morning, we're looking at 2 Kings chapter 5, the whole chapter. This is a story that comes up for whatever reason every time around this time of year on the church calendar, so I was like, let's do it. Yeah, it's an interesting story, and when you'll find it behind me. If you've got it with you, you can follow along like that. I'm going to read the story, and what I'd like you to do is to just see if you can connect with the people in the story. See if you can. I think it's always important for us to remember that these are stories. Oftentimes we think these are ancient stories, but they're actually quite sophisticated in lots of different ways. We looked at a story last week about Jacob wrestling with the stranger, and I think we discovered there's some intricacies there that are interesting. And so I think we'll find that again this morning. So see if you can. There are different characters in the story. See if you can identify with them, and then after we're done reading it, we'll kind of eventually take a few of them one by one and see what happens. So maybe we'll have fun. Maybe it will be boring. It's fine. So before we read it, let's pray together. God, thank you for this opportunity to read from this ancient book, to maybe have some fun with it, to open ourselves up to connection with you and your Spirit. And as we read, help us to listen for your voice in all of the ways that we might need it. In Jesus' name, amen. Now Naaman was a commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded, so super important. Because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. He was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy. Now, some bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel. And she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." She appears on the stage and is gone forever. Naaman went out to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. "By all means go," the king of Aram replied. "I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. The letter that he took to the king of Israel read, "With this letter I'm sending my servant Naaman to you, so that you may cure him of his leprosy." As soon as the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his robes and said, "My God, can I kill or bring back to life? Why does this fellow send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he's trying to pick a quarrel with me? Oh, you won't heal my servant Naaman? Well, now we got beef." When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent him a message. "Why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman went with his horses and his chariots, because he's super important, remember? And stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha didn't come out. He just sent a messenger. He sent a messenger to say to him, "Go, wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be cleansed." But Naaman went away angry and said, "Does he not know who I am? I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot and cure me of my leprosy, because I am important and I deserve it. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Come on, we're way awesomer than Israel. Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed? What's happening here?" So he turned off and went in a rage. Naaman's servants went to him and said, "My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, wouldn't you have done it? How much more then when he says, just wash and be cleansed?" So he went down, dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. Then Naaman and all his attendants went back to the man of God. He stood before him and said, "Now I know there is no God in all the world except in Israel, so please accept a gift from your servant." The prophet answered, "As surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I won't accept a thing." And even though Naaman urged him, he refused. No. "If you will not," said Naaman, "please let me, your servant, be given as much earth as a pair of mules can carry. For your servant will never again make burnt offerings and sacrifices to any other god but the Lord." So he wants to take a patch of Israel's earth, bring it back to his homeland so that he can worship on that, because back then gods are connected intimately with the land and it's a whole thing. "But may the Lord forgive your servant for this one thing. When my master enters the temple of Ramon to bow down, he is leaning on my arm. I'm going to have to bow down also, or else I'm going to get in trouble. So when I bow down in the temple of Ramon, may the Lord forgive your servant for this." Elisha's like, "Yeah, go in peace." After Naaman had traveled some distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said to himself, "My master was way too easy on that guy, this enemy of ours, by not accepting from him what he brought. As surely as the Lord lives, I'm going to run after him and make sure we get what we deserve." So Gehazi hurried after Naaman. When Naaman saw him running toward him, he got down from the chariot to meet him. "Is everything all right?" he asked. "Everything's fine," Gehazi answered. "My master sent me to say, well, there are these 2 young men from the company of the prophets that have just come to me in the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 sets of clothing." "By all means, take 2 talents, said Naaman. He urged Gehazi to accept them, and then tied up the 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 sets of clothing. He gave them to 2 of his servants, and they carried them ahead of Gehazi. When Gehazi came to the hill, he took these things from the servants and put them away in his house. He sent the men away, and they left. When he went and stood before his master, Elisha asked him, "Where have you been, Gehazi?" "Your servant didn't go anywhere," Gehazi answered. But Elisha said to him, "Was not my spirit with you when the man got down from his chariot to meet you? Is this the time to take money or to accept clothes or olive groves or vineyards or flocks or herds or male and female slaves? Naaman's leprosy will now cling to you and your descendants forever." Seems harsh. Then Gehazi went from Elisha's presence, and his skin was leprous. It had become as white as snow. That's the story. Come on. This book is so weird. Can we just be honest about that? Super weird. So, one of the things I remember about this story from seminary, this is just a quick aside, is my Old Testament professor, Tom Bogart, awesome, the best. He had us read like huge sections of the Old Testament because we were going to be pastors. And so we needed to read the Bible, right? So he would assign these huge sections, like whole books, to read at a time. Then we'd take quizzes on them. And so we would do this. And this was part of one section, like at the beginning of the semester. And then we got to the final exam at the end of the semester. And we had read like humongo portions of the Old Testament, just huge, right? We get to the end, and there's one question on the final exam worth as much as, there were like 12 questions, and this is worth as much as the ones where he had to write like small little essays on. What was the name of Naaman's servant who scammed, or what was the name of Elisha's servant who scammed Naaman? Just had to come up with the guy's name. This is it. The only place that this guy, I think he's named in chapter 2 or maybe 4. And it was like, what? We have to come up with just that guy's name? I remembered it started with the letter G. So I just wrote G and then made up something that sounded Hebrew, right? I knew it wasn't right. I get my test back. Guess what he did? He gave me full credit. Full credit for a totally wrong answer, I think. I never talked to him about it because I had the first letter right. He's like, okay, he did the reading. You're good. Isn't that funny? Grace. Anyway, okay. I'll never forget. Gehazi, right? So I think it's important when we encounter stories like this that they're not just these weird ancient stories. Like there's movement to them. There's they give you several different people, and there's not maybe just one point to the story. There's probably lots of things that we can learn from the story. So it's important for us to sort of identify with these people, sort of put ourselves in their shoes and maybe think about their motives. Where do they go? Why do they go there? What do they say? Why do they say? Why do they do the things that they do? Because in doing so, we kind of can identify with them. We learn maybe what's in their hearts because we have hearts and we can connect to these people. And Jesus said all sorts of really interesting things about the heart, and none of it had to do with romance or sentimentality. I want you to listen to these words that Jesus gives us about the human heart. He says, out of people's hearts come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. Like just pile them up, Jesus. Like just pile it up, right? His point is you can identify the deepest parts of people's selves by, in other places he calls it fruit, by what comes out of them. And I think this is what Paul is talking about when he's like, if your heart is connected with the Spirit, there will be fruit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. I'm missing one. Faithfulness. Is that it? So all of those things come out of people's hearts. So the heart is the most important. The heart is the most important thing. It is, in ancient thought, the controlling center of the human being. When someone does something as sincerely as they possibly can, we still think this way. When someone does things as sincerely as they can, we say they did that thing from their heart, right? It's the controlling center of the human being. And if Jesus is right, I think he was and is, then what we say, do, think, all of these things can sort of help us understand what's in the heart, especially when a heart gets tested. In our story this morning, there's a thing that happens that tests the hearts of the people, right? There's a sickness. It's leprosy. Leprosy makes your body, it rots your skin. It attacks your social network. It isolates you. It makes you unclean. It makes you untouchable. It leaves you socially unacceptable. Right? And so in our day, it could be all sorts of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be leprosy. It can be anything that we struggle with, anything that tests our hearts. It could be anger. It could be greed. It could be whatever, you name it. Things that tend to totally, or at least in a way, isolate us from other people. The question is, when your heart gets tested, where is your heart? Like, what comes out, right? And I think in this story, all kinds of different things come out. So we'll start with Naaman. We're going to look at him. We're going to look at his little journey and see if we can figure out what's in here and see if we might be able to identify it. So he's an Aramean general. He's a big shot who's politically connected, right? He is well-connected. He's politically active. You can think of him as like a 4-star general in our own military. So there are lots of receptions and banquets. There are probably press conferences where he answers questions from the press corps. Really smart. So he's got power. He's used to getting things done the way he wants them to get done, and people follow his orders, right? You can see Naaman and his wife if you just picture it. If you just use your imagination, you can build all sorts of beautiful things around these short little stories. You can see Naaman and his wife getting ready for one of those royal banquets. You can see Naaman's wife sort of straightening his tie if they wore ties, and she says, "There, that's good." And then she notices something, and she kind of squints her eyes, and she's like, "What's that on the speck of your nose?" And he's like, "It's nothing." But he wonders, what is that? That feels weird. And then they go to the banquet and they get back and he looks in the mirror and his worst fears are confirmed. He now has leprosy. He's a great warrior. He's a man of strength and power. He's used to getting his way in all things. People follow his orders, and now he has leprosy. And leprosy kind of progresses slowly, so they try to keep it to themselves for a while. They think maybe people won't notice, but eventually people will notice. There'll be no more banquets. There'll be no more press conferences. There'll be no more 4-star general status. Leprosy is about to steal his life. He's going to be broken, isolated, left for dead. So what does he do? He gets to work, right? He does research. Do your own research. He does his own research. He talks to people. He Googles best leprosy doctors in the world, or asks ChatGPT. And he finds out that the best people to take care of his leprosy are from his sworn enemy, Israel, like the last place he would want to go. Israel is going to heal me. It'd be like a 4-star general today finding out that they have to go to Iran, and the doctors in Iran are the only people in the world who can heal him. So just imagine it. And then imagine the rest of the journey. Imagine the shock after he experiences that. He experiences the fact that his own resources, his own connections aren't enough to get him healed, aren't enough to cure him. He winds up taking the medical advice of a servant, not just any servant, a child, a Jew, a slave, a girl. He has to take medical advice from that person. Right? Imagine how angry he feels when he finally shows up at the prophet Elisha's door. He's got a whole entourage with him. He's got a parade of silver and gold and garments to pay for it. This is like a diplomatic mission of the highest order. And what does Elisha do? He doesn't even come out. He just sends a servant out to meet. No personal greeting, no hello. It's just a servant. Right? And where does the servant send him? To the Jordan River, a muddy stream, to take a bath. Like you can hear the puffed up anger and indignation in his voice, right? He's like, I thought that he would at least come out and stand in front of me and call on the name of the Lord is God and then wave a hand or do whatever magic trick he does to heal me because I deserve it. Does he not know who I am? And he sends me to wash in that muddy stream? And then after some convincing, his servants are like, dude, if he'd have told you to like do a whole bunch of stuff and show how strong and manly you are, you would have done that. It's just asking you to do something easy. Go wash. Right? And so he does. Eventually he goes. And I think through Elisha and the servant, think about what God is saying to Naaman. Take off your armor. Take off your armor. All of it. All that stuff that signifies to everybody else how strong and important you are. How tough you are, how you can take care of yourself, how everybody has to obey your orders. Take off all of your armor, all of it. You're going to have to just take it all off. Now, get into the muddy water. Get in there. I know it stinks, it smells, it's gross. No, you're going to have to stoop down. Like, I know it doesn't feel good. You're going to have to stoop down. You're going to have to stoop all the way down. You have to get all the way in. Now wash yourself with the muddy water. Wash yourself. I know everyone's watching. I know it's super embarrassing, but do it. Wash yourself. Now do it again. And do it again. Do it again. Do it again and again. 7 times. Do it 7 times. Wash yourself until all of your need to buy or earn or impress or demand or control or manipulate your way into my presence gets all washed away too. Oh, think of the humiliation. Finally, he does it. He relents. He lets go. And his leprosy is cured. His skin is like a young man's again. He's happy, grateful. He knows that healing came in ways that he could not control. And he's like, now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. What a weird, fascinating, awesome story. Where was his heart? That was a struggle with humility, of letting go, wasn't it? Maybe you're one of the many in this room who struggles to get to the place where you can admit that you just can't control everything. Like sometimes you just can't get things done the way you want to get things done all on your own. Maybe you're one of the many among us who sometimes finds it really difficult to just ask for help. First, you have to come to the realization that I need some help. I can't do this on my own. And then you have to ask for help. Maybe you wrestle with humility. Like asking for help, I think in some ways, like washing yourself in a river, is the easiest thing to do. Just ask for help. And yet, we find it to be the hardest thing to do, right? Because we have to humble ourselves. And you think about your life, how many times in your life have someone come to you and asked for help and you're like, no? No, you usually jump to it. You help them. And then you think to yourself, why didn't you ask me 2 months ago? Asking for help, getting to the place where you realize, oh my goodness, do you need to ask for some help? Is there something in your life where you're like, oh my goodness, I just need to ask for help? And who do you need to ask? Who is it? It's the easiest yet hardest thing to do. Okay, so there's Naaman. Now here's this young woman. In verses 2 and 3, we realize she's been captured by Israel during the war. She's taken back as a slave girl for the general's wife. She just happened to be in the bedroom folding clothes when she heard Naaman's wife say, hey, what's that speck on the end of your nose? And she realizes that, oh my goodness, they're in a whole world of hurt. And she doesn't say anything right away because she wants them to have their space. But eventually she decides, I gotta say something. So after he does his research, after he talks to some people, Googles the thing, she finally comes to him and says, if only my master would go see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would heal you of your leprosy. That's it. That's all she says. And then she's gone. There's no more mention of her. That short, like 2 verses right there. And she disappears. Right? She says the things she says because she remembers in her former life, where she grew up in northern Israel, she knew there's this strange guy named Elisha who had this knack for raising people from the dead and healing people and putting their lives back together, who would feed the hungry. She remembered her identity. She remembered that back home there was healing. She knew that Elisha there was just something about it. He had this uncanny ability to work with the divine to heal. And so she just told her little truth. She invited him to take the next step. She pointed the way towards healing. And he went, and he's healed. Is there someone you can think of now in your life? You're like, oh my goodness, I've experienced something like that, something akin to a healing, a fullness, a putting back together of some things in my life from what I experience here in this room, connected with these people in the presence of the divine. Is there someone, you can't explain it, I can't explain it, not fully, no. But is there someone in your life who you can say, hey, come, this is a place. I know you've had questions. I know you've been wondering. I know you've had a hard time with like spiritual things, but for whatever reason, this place feels, I've experienced something different and new and almost healing. Come, be with us. Maybe you'll experience that too. She comes into his life, speaks her little truth, and changes his life forever. Isn't that interesting? Or maybe there's this other guy, Gehazi. Right? Remember, Elisha wouldn't accept any payment from Naaman because he's like, it's a gift. That's what we're after here, new life. Gehazi has another idea. Right? Naaman left, he's all happy. And Gehazi, he's like, there's an opportunity here. So he runs up, tells him, makes up this story about two guys he knows who need some help, and the general was excited, so he gives Gehazi money and clothes, and Gehazi takes them back, and he hides them, and keeps them for himself. He scams him, right? He makes a profit off of somebody else's misery, right? And maybe you see an edge somewhere, hope not, or maybe there's like an opportunity. There's an opportunity to just take advantage of somebody else, right? But look at what happens to Gehazi. It's like that thing inside of him that makes him want to manipulate and control and take advantage of somebody else's misery just for himself. At the end of the story, he winds up having the leprosy on his skin. And I think what the story is telling us is those things inside of us that make us want to do those kinds of things, take advantage of people, those things are as socially isolating. Those things are as ugly. They make our lives turn into that, as ugly as having leprosy itself. Ew. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to make a joke because it's inappropriate. But then there's this last guy in the story, Elisha. And what about Elisha? He's the one who works with God to heal someone. He's mysterious, he's hidden, he's kind of behind the scenes. He doesn't come out to take credit for it. He's behind the scenes, but he's different from everybody else around him in the world. He gives a specific prescription, go wash in the Jordan, your flesh will become like new, and that's it. So Elisha just sort of is in tune with the flow of the divine and allows himself to sort of go with it. He knows that the God of Israel is able to bring healing in the most horrible of conditions. If only one is willing to humble themselves, God is able to step in and do the work of God. So maybe you're in that place. Maybe you can identify yourself with Elisha. You know, and I know, and we know, or we think we know. We have faith that God is able to heal all kinds of things, to put people's lives back together, in part because we've experienced it. Now we want others to experience it. So maybe there's some little thing in this world that you can involve yourself in to sort of step into that flow of the divine. Or you look out in the world and you see different places doing really good work, like Martha's House of Hope, which maybe you can volunteer some time there, or Access, or the Bridge Home. Is there a way you can see in the world where God is already at work in the world, doing something new and beautiful and different, bringing healing to the lives of others? Or maybe it's something like gathering at the Capitol with a group of people and holding a sign and being there and with a community of people saying this world can be different and new and better, calling ourselves to something higher and more beautiful. Maybe it's just gathering with a group of people like that and making a statement, showing up and allowing God to show off. Maybe you're with Elisha, the one who works with God. Is there a place you can join? You've been thinking about it for a while, and now maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to step in and give yourself in a new way. So where's your heart today? Maybe you're in a place where I just need to ask for some help. Or maybe you've got that one person in your life where you're like, if only, just be invitational, right? Hopefully you're not Gehazi. Hopefully you're not there. Or maybe you're with Elisha and you're willing to step in. You're like, you know what? I'm going to work with God in doing something special here. Don't wait. Just take that next step. I don't know. But maybe it's a good opportunity this morning as we think about all these different characters to just pay attention to where our hearts are. Allow the Spirit to do what the Spirit does so that we can jump into the flow of the divine in the here and now. Let's pray.